Hello and welcome again to the Metabolic Balance ANZ podcast. This is where we share real stories and insights to help you on your journey with metabolic balance and optimal health and personalized nutrition. I'm Cherry Wills and I'm your host today, and I am joined by Elliana Kelly. Elliana is a wonderful client here in Queensland, with one of our practitioners, Sharon Carius. She started Metabolic Balance at the beginning of this year, 2024, and is going to share her journey with us. So a big hello to Elliana.
Thanks for having me today.
It's great to have you here, and I always love hearing about how people get on with metabolic balance, what their experience is. So, if you were to just sort of in a nutshell say, what's your first initial instinct when somebody says what happened for you with metabolic balance?
I think one word describes it, and that would just be life-changing. Simple as that.
I wasn't expecting that one. Okay, excellent. That's a pretty cool start.
You go from being, down here just in the dumps, feeling awful all the time, and that has an impact on mental health, of course, obviously. If you're just feeling sick and just disgusting all the time, to suddenly feeling, oh my God, like I feel good. I have energy. I can eat food. It's a totally different outlook on life almost. So yeah, my life is much better for it. It has been life-changing.
So can you describe then where you were at the sort of the end of 2023? What led you to decide?
My health had taken probably one of the biggest dips that I'd ever gone through. I was either sick with the flu all the time. I was vomiting up my food after almost every meal. I was just very, very sick, and I was very bloated, and I just did not feel good. I just was tired, lethargic. Everything just felt difficult, and it was not a good place to be. I looked awful. I wasn't sleeping well. Just everything was just bad in terms of how my body felt. And so I'd had a couple of friends who'd done this program, and they didn't have issues quite like mine, but they'd had good luck. And I thought, well, you know what? I've seen a couple of dietitians in the past. That hasn't done anything for me. In fact, I think it's made me worse in terms of some things. So I thought, what the heck? I'll give it a go. It's not like it can get much worse. So I did it, and I am so grateful that I did, because as I just said before, everything's just started to go up my way. I feel better, and yeah, I'm happy.
Wow. So at this, had you been diagnosed with anything in particular?
Um, Not anything particular. So there was a suspicion of me having celiac. It does run on one side of my family, and I had been having issues with gluten for the past couple of years, but I was too scared to do the test because you've got to eat gluten for an extended period of time before they do the endoscopy, and I just thought that is just too much for me to do. I'd done prick tests for allergies, so I'd come back with a honey allergy, and apparently I have an esophagus only allergy to an egg. I don't really know how that works, but I just had a lot of intolerances, really. None of them were allergies, except for, as I said, that honey and egg. But a lot of foods I would eat just made me feel so sick and so bloated. So that was the extent of my diagnoses.
Yeah. And how old are you, Eliana? Do you mind sharing that?
Oh, yes, I turned 25 a couple of months ago.
Okay, so early 20s, that's really when you should be almost that prime of life, being able to, be out and about.
Yeah, going to restaurants, wining and dining, just enjoying myself. But definitely was not petrified to go out and eat any food. I developed some serious food anxiety, and just I did not want to eat anything just out of fear of just feeling sick again. And that's obviously not good for your health either. But it just felt like a battle I just couldn't win.
So you go from being scared to eat anything, as you say, and then you're now doing a food only program where the whole thing about it is finding the right foods for you. So talk us through how that felt then, to suddenly be, you are presented with a list of foods that you need to eat.
I was disappointed with my list of foods at first.
Were you? Okay.
It was all just green food. There was barely any meat on it, and yeah, it had made me feel sick, but I love food. I always have. It's always been a really big part of my family. I come from an Italian background, and my dad's very much into meats and things, so we love food in my household. And so I was like, oh, I get a list of foods that are apparently good for me, and then I just get lettuce and kale and just a lot of greens. That was my list. Other people's are different, but at first I was like, this is like an elimination diet. That's what I thought of it at first. I'm back to square one. I'm 15 again, back in a dietitian's office, and she's doing a chemical elimination diet for me, which I think was a lot of the reason of why I've ended up in this place. But it just felt like I was going backwards. I was like, oh, I just eat lettuce and salad all the time, and a piece of chicken. But doing it, worth it, felt good. It was a bit tough to get on a schedule of regularly eating food, and I have to say those first few bites of new things were a bit scary, just because, as I said, I did have a lot of food anxiety, and so having to eat 3 square meals a day was very daunting, very scary, and I didn't want to do it at first, and I had a lot of negative thoughts about it, I'll admit. But after the first week, I was like, this is incredible. I haven't felt sick. My bloating is just basically gone. I mean, I look completely different. Within a couple of weeks, my whole body looked and felt like a whole new person. I was blown away. So, yeah, hesitant at first, but once I got into it, happy I did so.
Well, I think that's a really interesting point, though, isn't it? Because you never quite you're in a bad place, and then you're now know that things need to change, and you are sort of embarking on doing something pretty different to what you were doing, because you're now eating 3 meals a day, and you're very much following your food list.
It was very different.
Yeah, and then when you start, there's this sort of determination, because I've made the decision, I'm doing it. But what kept you going was actually then how you were feeling because of that actual food.
Stubbornness, I think, started me off in just going, I've got no other choice and I've just got to do it. And I was angry. I think that's the best way to describe it. I was very angry at the fact that I had to do this program. So I was like, it's not fair that I feel like this, but I think it was pure stubbornness that caused me to do it and drove me through that first week. Just you've got to do it. You've got to do it. Just and yes, that's what started me. But what kept me going was the results that I got.
Yeah, and I think that's what keeps anybody keep doing anything, is if it's it's the results you get. Otherwise, why would you keep on going if you're not feeling any different?
Yeah, well, I'd done, as I said to you before, I'd done a, an elimination diet. Apparently, I think it was a chemical food elimination diet, but it was very strict. And that was when I was 15. So that was my first introduction to, okay, let's try and fix your foods. Not a positive introduction. I wouldn't wish that on anyone. Next time I went to see a dietitian, I can't remember what they did, but saw another one. They did the FODMAP thing. I thought, oh, this all sounds really good. Tried that, didn't see anything. For maybe like one meal, you're like, okay, this is different, but you're kind of just eating nothing at that point. And I didn't feel like I was getting anywhere. As soon as I'd have one little thing, I'm like, I don't understand. There's no explanation here, because you say I've got sensitivities to this, but that's basically every food on the planet. So make that make sense. It didn't. So that was my introduction to fixing my stomach and food therapies, I suppose, and just trying to get myself better. And they weren't positive ones for me. So that's why I had that skeptical attitude at the beginning. But yes, I actually saw results this one, which is why I was able to see it through to the end. It's why to this day, 9 months later or something, I still not so strictly follow my food program, but I still eat the foods on my list. Yes, I had chocolate cake for breakfast this morning, but the fact that I'm able to say I had chocolate cake for breakfast this morning is just incredible to me, because if that had been me last year, no hope. I would have probably gone home with stomach cramps and just been, crying in my bedroom. So the results have lasted.
Well, they do. I mean, I think that's where we like people to appreciate that it's just nourishing your body with some food that really is matched to you, so that you feel good.
The way my coach described it to me in the beginning was, she said, it's not a diet, this is a lifestyle. And my brothers, they like to have little nitpicky moments with me and make fun of me a little bit for all the foods I can't eat. And so I just come back to them. I say, it's a lifestyle choice, or as brothers do. But that's what I tell them. I said, oh, it's a lifestyle choice, which it is. It's not for everyone, but if you're in a position similar to mine, then it's worth it. It is so worth it.
And I think it's a lot of people put up with a lot of symptoms. I mean, that's the way I often see it, is that there are millions and millions of people struggling with chronic ill health issues, and the human body wants to heal.
It's almost become the norm. Yeah, there are so many friends I speak to. I think women in particular suffer with this sort of thing, just because they're so, oh, can't eat that, I can't eat that, and I think it causes a lot of issues. But my male friends, they're fine. I talk to there's a couple, but a lot of women in particular, I think, suffer with something like that. My friends, at least, and I'm just like, you don't have to live like that. You shouldn't be big and bloated like that all the time. It's not normal. You shouldn't feel bad when you're eating all of this stuff. That's not how food should make you feel, unless you have a medically diagnosable reason, like it's an actual allergy. Like it doesn't make sense that you need to feel sick when you eat. It's not good.
Yeah. And I think it's just learning to recognize what you need. I talk a little bit about acceptance, and I think that's where you're at as well. Because if I'm, you initially had this anger, saying, "I don't want to have to do this. I don't want to have to be different. I don't want to have to deal with these problems." So you were sort of angry that you had to, because you had to do it in order to be able to function in the world and have a life at all. But now you are realizing that it's so worth it, because life is so much better. So there's a certain now acceptance. Yeah, this is me, this is what I need to do. I'm not actually missing out on anything. I just know what I do need to do, and I know how to basically have fun every day, have that little bit of chocolate cake if I want to have it, because it's fine, because this is the real world we live in. We want to have a nice balanced life and feel good.
There certainly has been acceptance. I mean, there's still foods that I struggle with. Seafood, I forgot to mention that one before. I mean, I can't have that. I can't have eggs. I haven't tried gluten, I'll be honest, because that's just too much across the line for me. Maybe one day I'll have a cracker and go, oh, okay, there's still an issue, there still isn't, but I'm not that far over my food anxiety that I'm willing to eat a piece of bread. But in terms of other foods like chocolate cake, I could never, it's gluten-free chocolate cake, but I'm fine. I'm fine after eating it. And that's just incredible to me. So yeah, it's opened up a whole wide world of just food again. And yes, I am restricted to a point. And yes, my brothers still make fun of me, because it is funny that there's a bunch of things I can't eat, but it is nowhere near as bad as it used to be. Now I almost have it's pretty much a set list of things that I know don't have that, but everything else, I'm not scared to try it anymore. And I know that if I do have it, there's a way that I can get back on track to feeling better really quickly. So it's a bit of a safety net.
What is this way that you go back onto the plan? You do a reset?
Not quite. So maybe for like a meal or two, I'll have that and just go, okay, that food's made me feel okay. I've eaten my food. But I find everyday life for me looks like I've got a list of my favorite things that I had on that list. I discovered red lentil pasta. I mean, if you told me this time last year that I'd be eating red lentil pasta, I'd probably laugh at you because I hate lentils, beans, all that sort of stuff. But I've discovered that as opposed to gluten-free pasta, and I love it. And so I found substitutions that I use in everyday life and follow the plan in that respect of rough portion sizes and using foods that I know are on my list. But I expand beyond that and add in different sauces and other things that I want. But yes, I've got a bunch of foods that I'm like, okay, instead of this, I could have that instead. And it's better for me. It makes me feel better, tastes good. So that's what my everyday life is. But yeah, in terms of that reset, it would be to just go back to the real basics, you know, for however long I need or want. It might be one meal, it might last for a few days. It really depends. But yeah, so that's I think what falls into the whole lifestyle thing, because it's a different way of looking at foods, and it's a different relationship I now have with foods. It's not so much I'm scared to eat you, I'm terrified of you, I hate you because you make me feel awful. It's I'll give it a go. If it doesn't work, okay, that sucks, but it's not the end of the world.
Yeah. So do you think it was, you could look on it as you had a real education in how to eat within this structured program and working with a coach? It's kind of like going to school in some ways, learn what you really need to do. Now you've got this understanding, knowledge, and the real health changes. You kind of know what you've got to do now moving forward yourself.
I feel like a preacher when I talk to people sometimes because
Okay.
I mean, I was talking about my friends that have similar issues. I tell them all about it, and I feel like I'm trying to preach the good word of God and saying, "Oh my God, this is so good." It's it's really helped me. But yeah, I can't believe the differences in what it's done for me and what I've learned from it in particular that can just be applied to my everyday life.
Yeah, because that's the thing. There's there's no further investment or money. You don't have to buy any products to now look after yourself.
Exactly. It's a lifetime thing that, as I said, it's a safety net. It's something I can fall back on when times are dark and I've eaten a bit too much, chocolate cake or whatever it may be. But it's that thing that I can go back to and go, okay, these are my basics. This is what's okay for me. It's not ideal. I still have a part of me that wishes it wasn't like this, but yes, there has been that acceptance. Well, I mean, who wouldn't? It sucks having food issues. It really does. There's no way to sugarcoat it. But yeah, it's a nice safety net to fall back off, and it's a very comforting thought to know that just a little bit of hard work goes a really long way.
Yeah, and working with your coach as well, because you didn't have to try and work it out by yourself.
No, and so I'm sure I had a lot of dumb questions for her. I certainly fought her at some points and going, I don't understand what you mean. That doesn't make sense. Like we had friendly arguments, but it was just Eliana, listen, and I was like, I don't get it, I don't get it, I don't get it. But and then she'd explain it further and like, oh, okay, I see what that means. And but that's probably because of my attitude going into it. I was not a happy camper. I was not sitting there going, oh, I'm so excited. I was sitting there going, the first meeting I had with Sharon, in fact, I sat down, I said, look, I'm going to lay it down. I don't want to be here. I wish I didn't have to meet you. I wish I didn't have to do this. I don't want to do this, but I feel as though I have no other choice. So, let's get it out. Give me what you got. And she was fantastic through it, very supportive, and just was very helpful to have that person just to explain things to me so I understood what was going on, because I'm very much a person that if I don't know why I'm doing something, I don't want to do it. It's just not going to make sense to me and I probably would fail. So it was good to have that person with just such extensive knowledge, and call me anytime, contact me any questions you have, and just a support person, really.
Yeah. I think it makes all the difference. I mean, we live in a world often of a lot of do it yourself these days. Buy the kit, do it, work it out, Google it, Dr. Google. I mean, you must have done your really good fair share of Dr. Google over the years, I would imagine.
Oh, yes, yes. And some of my theories turned out correct, some of them probably not so much. But yeah, I was constantly trolling the web. But of course, nobody's presentation of symptoms are exactly the same. Nobody goes through the exact same thing. So to be able to sit down with a coach and just go, okay, my life at this point is awful. This is what's happening. And then they go, okay, here's a solution for you. This is how it works. This is why it works. And worst case, if it doesn't work, then these are the steps we take. So it was all laid out for me in the beginning. I did have that resistant attitude, I'll admit, and I was pig-headed and didn't want to listen, but we got through that, and then everything was explained to me, why things work like that, why this happens, why my body went from looking like a beach ball to an actual woman within a couple of weeks. All of these things were all just explained to me in layman's terms as well. Um, and that was very comforting as well, just to have someone who goes, I understand, I'm listening, I'm here to help you. So, yeah, I guess you could do something like this yourself, but I don't think you'd get as much out of it just doing it yourself. I think you need that person, especially with that knowledge, to get you through it. Because I think a lot of people are, if they don't understand the why, then they're not going to do the do.
Yeah. Or they just give up. I mean, I think sometimes was there a moment? I mean, I feel there's a very dog-headed Eliana inside you that just says, "No, I'm doing it. I'm stubborn. I'm going to just make a go of it." And then obviously, you felt better. But were there moments where you thought, "No, I can't do this. Not giving up."
Yeah, in the first little bit of it, I was like, I hate this. It was an overwhelming hatred. I think it was more like a self-hatred sort of thing, just to go, why is your body like this? Why do we have to do this? And it was awful and it felt terrible, but in the end, I think I needed that fire in me to get me through that first bit, because again, I love food, I love cooking, I love just finding whatever's in the fridge and just making something out of it. I don't like being stuck to portion sizes and having to weigh things, and that was very exhausting at first because it's not really something I'd ever done before. Um, and I thought it was a bit ridiculous.
But do you do it now?
Well, yeah, I eyeball it to a point. So yeah, it's not forever.
No, we definitely don't want anybody weighing food forever. That's definitely not. But it is about actually learning what a portion size is to start with. It's part of the learning journey, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah. So I mean, I've got some real impulse issues sometimes, and so my eyes are definitely bigger than my stomach, but I'm learning to curb that a little bit, and now I'm like, oh, okay, this is excessive. Put some back, and that's for lunch tomorrow. So I've effectively halved my portion size to a normal one instead of wasting half of it or overeating. So that alone makes me feel better. But yes, I've learned about portion sizes, control, what foods are good, what foods may not be so good, how to help myself. It's been a journey. It's still an ongoing one. I mean, I was in a pretty bad place, and I think there's still, I think I can still be better, but I'm very, very, very happy with the place that I'm in right now and just have overwhelming joy.
And that's why you're talking to me today as well, because it's, if somebody were to be listening to this and thinking, is it my food, or is this program potentially what I need to do? What would you say to them?
I would say to them that their story may not be like mine. It might be similar, but from what I've learned in this journey, food is connected to just so much of what we do. Um, I learned about all the immune system responses it has, just your everyday mood, all these different things to do with food. A lot of it comes from the stomach, and I'd learned that a bit in previous research, but to have it set before me on that silver platter, it's just, if you think you've got an issue and you're listening to this, clearly this is a path that you're looking at going on. I say just jump in and just do it, because the worst case that happens, you're stuck in where you are, but you probably won't be. You probably will see results. I mean, there are some people who just eat whatever they want and feel fine, but they probably even benefit from something like this just to get themselves at like an optimum health, I suppose. It's so worth doing. So jump in, just do it.
Yeah, I mean, your food, if your food becomes you, and it is the biggest driver of any kind of immune response as soon as it enters the body. It happens all the.
Yeah. Well, as I said to you last year, I was sick with the flu all the time, or throat infections, sinus infections, not just a general cold. Like, it was bad. I was on antibiotics all the time, which, as we know, isn't good. They did the blood work, and my white blood cell count was just through the floor. It was just awful. This year, I think I've gotten sick once, didn't need antibiotics for it. Like, even just my general health is just so much better than it used to be. My energy levels are up, but yeah, I'm not getting sick anywhere near what I used to be. So it has impacted so many more parts of my life than just dinner time and lunchtime and just general, like, ugh.
That's what it's about. I mean, as I always say, the body wants to be well, and as soon as you give it the opportunity, it really does try its best to do what it can for you. That's, sounds a bit, wacky to say maybe, but our bodies do want to work properly. Yeah, if it's the chance.
Yeah, of course. You just need to give it the right things to do so. My body absolutely jumped out. As I said, I went from looking, I was just bloated and just physically awful. Massive bags under my eyes and just puffy face, and then within a couple of weeks, it was all just like it just vanished. It's like I woke up one morning and I was like, is that a waistline I have suddenly? Didn't know that was there. So just that alone, but the real me did come out. It's awesome.
Oh, thank you so much, Eliana. It's been a real pleasure to hear your story and have you share that with everybody. And I'm just delighted. I always love hearing how people embrace just looking after themselves with real food. That's it. You know now, moving forward, this is what you do, and you look after yourself. And I am, I'd love to hear more about how you go over the coming years. And yeah, it's great.
I'm very excited for those coming years to see how else I can just do better. But yeah, I'm over the moon about what's happened so far, and so thank you as well.
Yeah, no, it's a pleasure. It's wonderful. Thank you. And if you would like to hear more or learn more about metabolic balance, do check out the show notes and the website metabolic-balance.com.au, and you can find your practitioner near you on the website. Check out other episodes in the podcast too for more stories. Thank you again to Eliana, and I will see you next time.